Blast off. Good evening, everyone, to the Star Chamber Investigations, part of the Juxtaposition One channel. Tonight, I'd like to welcome my elite members of the Star Chamber. We have a special member and eyewitness guest, a special guest, Rose from Ontario, Canada. Rose, and we have Shirley from the southwestern region of the United States, and we have Jennifer from the Chicago outfit area in Illinois joining us. So hello, ladies. Welcome to Star Chamber Investigation.
Hello, Inspector.
I brought my juxtaposition mug because I feel like I have a lot of drinking to do tonight because we're covering a homicide murder, a brutal, bloody bludgeoning of a 33-year-old woman in a suburb of Toronto, Canada, in Ontario, in Rose's personal neighborhood. Rose lives 6 houses away from this murder, and Rose was babysitting an 8 to 10-year-old little girl across the street, again, 6 houses away from the murder of Christine Ferrari Demeter. And Rose was tentatively planning to be at the Demeter household at dinner time, which would have been around 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
About 5.
Well, 5, but probably you might have been invited to dinner, and then you would have been there till about 8 o'clock, where Peter was announcing that everyone would get in the car and drive to the shopping mall to go to the Burke's jewelry store, and then there you'd be, and really there isn't room in the car for you, because they had 3 other teenage girls and a female doctor and the family dog. Like, I don't think you could shoehorn another person into that Mercedes. That's a full house. So if you were there, you'd probably say, well, rather than get shoehorned into a car, I'll just stay here, or I'll go home to my parents' house. I just walk home. But anyway, that didn't happen because we're going to get into it. You were surprised by a last minute decision request to ask you to babysit closer down the cul-de-sac away from the murder, across the street from your parents' house, which is only 6 houses away, but is taking you far afield from where you would have been, next to the garage where the murder happened. You would have been right next door, perhaps in the kitchen, which is like the same wall. It shares the wall with the kitchen. So trying to figure out where the best place to start is, but maybe Rose, I want to start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience listening on its home? This really is a riveting story. Tell us a little bit about what was going on in your life in 1973 and your neighborhood, and your relationship with the murder victim, Jennifer Ferrari, who's a 5'10" model from Austria, Vienna, Austria. And she's married to a Hungarian business real estate developer man, Peter Demeter. And take it away, Rose. Tell us.
Okay. So my family moved to Dundas Crescent around 1968-69. My father built a custom home. That was his first custom home that he built. And we got to know the neighbors, obviously, on the street. There was only 10 houses on the street at the time. And there were one family in particular, the tenant family. They lived right beside the Demeters. We became very, very close friends, and they became lifelong friends. And they had 4 children, 3 girls and a boy. There was another family beside us with 2 boys. And then across the street, the O'Day family with 1 girl. My cousins lived not too far away on another street. And so the 11 of us would get together and play in this neighborhood. It was a dead end street. It was perfect for all kinds of activities. We went down to the Credit River. Our houses, most of the houses, backed onto the Credit River, the ravine. So we were facing, the houses were facing south and the backyards were facing north, which is where the Credit River was. And we would go down into the ravine. It was a shortcut. It was kind of a little bit, you had to be adventurous to do it. But it was fantastic. So we went down into the ravine. There was a flat land. Then we'd go to the Credit River, and um, we just had a lot of fun as kids. Um,
Rose,
it,
was there any poison ivy down there?
yeah.
I'm
Well,
just curious.
yes, poison ivy. There
Were they
were
snake?
snakes. There were snakes, which are like
Oh, okay. All right.
we would wade in the Credit River in the summer, and there were leeches in the river. Okay, and they
Oh,
they would get onto your legs, and it was fun.
cool.
But
Was there any crawdads?
crawdads are
Yeah.
is that like crayfish?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. They
Okay.
were.
And did you tell me that salmon sometimes came up the
Yes,
Credit River?
yes,
Salmon? Like
yeah.
in
There.
September, maybe? September,
Yes,
October?
yes,
Really?
yeah, yeah.
How large would those fish
I
be?
I can't remember, but there was a section of the credit was the riverbed was different levels, and some levels you could walk, and others were deeper, and the boys would go fishing there all the time. So
Okay.
yeah, it was great. There was a little bridge that went over to the other side, and
Okay. Did
um,
you go over to the other side very
yeah,
often? You did.
yeah,
Now, didn't they build the University of Toronto brand new campus around 1970 or so?
yes, 69, 70. Yeah,
Okay, so there was construction going on that side of the
yes,
river.
yeah.
Did you go over and inspect the construction when it was going on back then?
No,
Not
no, I
really.
didn't do that. No. I mean, I definitely went to the campus, but I didn't go up the rocks and all that to inspect it. But it was
Okay.
something that we watched as it was being built because we could see it. It was very clear from we were high up, and then you go down the ravine and you could see high up as it was being built, especially from the tenant property. We had a bird's eye view of the university.
I see. Well,
Yeah, it
I
was.
bring that up because tonight we're talking about Crime Beat, which was a television show that you were invited to go on and you declined. And I want to thank you for agreeing to do tonight's video here on this show. But it
I
turns
think.
out that this is a crime that happened on July 18th, 1973. And by then, the University of Toronto campus was flourishing, it was open. And this is an extremely safe neighborhood. And what is the juxtaposition of this story is that we had not only the murder of a 33-year-old wife and mother of a daughter, Andrea, in her garage on a peaceful cul-de-sac that's never had a murder since or before ever. And we had 3 other felony assaults of women that summer also. We had 2 murders and a felony abduction, rape, and a woman left for dead in that area, in that open space area out there near the Credit River, involving the following people. Constance Dickey was 19 years old. She was raped and murdered and
Mhm.
dumped on the perimeter of the University of Toronto campus near where you lived. And we had Nita Novak. She's 18 years old. She was abducted, raped, and murdered and dumped in this neighborhood. And then we have 16-year-old high school student Julia Sheldon. She was abducted and molested, raped, and left for dead, but didn't die. And as a result, she identified her assailant as being a married man, age 24, with 2 children, if you believe that. And they did make an arrest. But what is so confounding to me is this is an area that never has a homicide crime. And in the summer of 1973, we have 3 homicides and a felony rape, and 2 of the homicides are felony rapes also. So you have this crime wave going on. Could you explain to the viewers and our other Star Chamber members here, Shirley and Jennifer, that typically in the summertime in this part of Canada, of Ontario, that a lot of folks go off to the lake country. They have cottages, or they leave town during the summer. Is that sort of your understanding?
Yeah, definitely. Very common for people that lived on Dundas Crescent, but also the area that we lived in was Credit Woodlands. But Dundas Crescent, three of the families were gone for the summer, and people will rent cottages. Maybe they own them too, but the tenants rented the cottages,
Okay.
and it was very quiet. It was dead. There was nothing to do, and we had this opportunity to spend time with Andrea, which was Christina's daughter and Peter's daughter.
Now,
And
you were at the household on the 18th of July,
yes,
1973, which is the date of the murder, which we think happened sometime between 8:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m.
yes.
within that hour, but probably closer to 8:30 p.m. probably. And there's a reason for saying that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is, at that time, you were babysitting 6 houses away across the street
Mhm.
for the very first time. You'd never babysat that daughter of the O'Day household ever before. It's the first time ever. How many times had you been to the Demeter's house, inside their house or in their swimming pool before this date of the 18th? Would you guess?
15
Okay.
in that summer,
How many
15.
times their next door neighbor, which has four children, three girls and a
Yeah,
boy? How
yeah,
many times you've been in the house immediately next door to the swimming pool? How many times?
forever. I mean, all the time.
100? Couple hundred
Yeah,
times?
yeah. So
Over
that
how many
summer,
how many years did you live there at that point?
well,
Six,
moved
six
in
years, 7 years?
69. So yeah, four or 5 years.
All right. So in 4 or 5
5 years.
years, you may have been to the next door neighbor 200 times, and you've
Yes.
been at the murder victim, Christine Ferrari
Mhm.
Demeter. You've probably been in her house a dozen times at least.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Have you been in every room of their house? How
No.
many rooms of their house have you been in? Can you name off the rooms you've personally visited?
Well, their master bedroom was off to the pool, and I do remember going through the master bedroom to get into the main hallway, and then the kitchen and the living room. And
Right.
they had a dining area. It was kind of one big area for living and dining.
So like a
And
great room.
yes, yeah.
How about did you go into did Peter have a study or an office?
I didn't go to the other side of the house. There were bedrooms on the other side. I didn't go there. So it was just the master bedroom. I went through the front door, the kitchen, and then the where the TV was, and the eating room, the
Okay.
dining
Now
room, I guess you call it, great room.
the murder scene was actually they have a two-car garage, which is adjunct to the main home.
Yeah,
And what I didn't know before today, because I looked at all the police photographs and they do not depict the garage in the way that I would like to look at it, which is I like to be very thorough. And they just give you one angle, and I don't like that. I want to turn and look at the different views. But having spoken to you before we began tonight's show, you told me that there's actually two doors to enter the garage, one from the rear of the garage, from where the retractable doors for the cars electronically open. They're on a motor and they open. There's a left and a right garage door, but directly behind that there's a regular door that leads into a side area next to the kitchen, I think.
right.
And there is a door and a short staircase from the kitchen of the Demeter household down
Mhm.
a couple of stairs, not many stairs,
Right.
that opens next to where Peter Demeter parks his Cadillac. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So there's actually four entry and exit points of the garage, two in the front, one in
Mhm.
the back, and one on the side that leads
Right.
to the kitchen.
Mhm.
So it appears that Christine was lured into the garage. And don't you think it's most likely, since she spent most of her time in the kitchen cooking or organizing the kitchen after the meal, In this case, we know that all her household guests and her husband left the home to go to the shopping mall to go buy some gifts at the Burke's jewelry store and other things. So she's alone in the home with her 3.5-year-old daughter, Andrea. And she is going back and forth between Andrea in the living room and or the kitchen. And then she gets a phone call at 8:30 p.m. from Peter asking some questions about maybe jewelry, and perhaps being asked, could you go into the garage and get some papers from my Cadillac or something on the loft area above my car? Could you do that for me? This is speculation. I don't know what was said to her, but we know for sure she got a phone call from Peter from the jewelry store at 8:30 p.m. And all we know is that she did go into the garage and she was beaten over the head 6 times with a blunt force instrument like a tire iron or a crowbar, and that murder weapon has never been found and probably never will be found. It's been disposed of. And do you think it's plausible that if she got a phone call from her husband asking her to go into the garage to check out the Cadillac, which door do you think she would use to go fetch some papers in the car?
Well, the kitchen door.
The kitchen door.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
and then tell the audience where, if you went down the stairs, open that door, where would you be relative to her husband's Cadillac, which has a dead battery, by the way. That Cadillac's disabled. And the electric garage door motor is unplugged, so that's disabled too.
Yeah.
So that garage door won't open by pushing a button. It has to be manually lifted, but the car's dead too. Now, would the door open kind of in the rear by the trunk area of the Cadillac, or would it open toward the driver's door of the Cadillac?
Okay. The trunk.
I mean, kind of toward the back of the garage, middle of the garage.
What was the Cadillac backed in, or was
yes, it was backed
in? That's what I remember.
The front was aiming forward toward the street, toward Dundas.
So she would be coming down the couple of steps from the kitchen, couple of steps, and there, the trunk being the left-hand side of the trunk.
Okay, so it would come out pretty close to the rear of the Cadillac?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how the photographs from the police department make it appear. But I wanted to confirm from you, that the stairs from the kitchen is probably the most likely, because otherwise she has to exit into the backyard or the side yard. Yeah. Then she has to walk over to the garage from behind, then enter through that door, or go around. She doesn't have the electric garage door opener for her bay because her husband's taken the car. He's taken her Mercedes and he's taken her remote control. So she can't use it. Now, the one for the Cadillac, it doesn't work. She could have it in her hand. It's not going to work because someone has unplugged the motor. So you can't use the remote control. Even if you had it, it wouldn't work. So really, the only way she can get into that garage is she's got to manually raise the door up and climb underneath, or go around through probably the dirt pathway, or just go from the kitchen down quick like a bunny rabbit and go fetch whatever it is that Peter somehow needed. I don't know why Peter couldn't grab it when he returned home from a shopping trip, right? Like, why am I getting it? Why don't you grab it when you park the car?
Right.
Which is another very odd that Christine would need to go to the garage to go get something in the Cadillac or above the Cadillac, which I don't even know if there's a loft. The reason that I am suggesting there might be a loft is because of Peter's behavior when the police arrived. And the police arrived about 10:05 to 10:10 p.m. Police cars continuously arrived. He returned home at 9:45 with his 4 passengers and the family dog. And he immediately suggested to those women, oh my God, Christine has fallen and hit her head. She
Right.
must have been trying to get something from the loft. He was suggesting that she was standing on the Cadillac passenger bay door and was
Right.
reaching and fell and conked her head. But the
Yeah.
police never bought that story because she had 6 divots in her brain. So
Right.
there's no way, unless you're a basketball, you're going to bounce off the concrete floor 6 times. And it wouldn't leave that kind of dent in your skull if you hit concrete. It's not going to be the same as a hammer or a crowbar or a tire iron. It's an entirely different type of wound pattern. So you see, Peter was trying to suggest to the police, after having suggested to his guests, that this is a terrible accident. And the police thought that was odd since there's been no investigation. How do you know all this? How do you know she had an accident? And there were 2 twin German teenagers there, and one of them believed Peter because Peter said accident, and the other one said, no, it's a murder.
Right.
They had 2 completely opposite reactions. She ignored Peter and said, no, look at all the blood. It's not an accident. I mean, I have photographs you can look at. It's a huge pool of blood.
Yeah.
It's not conking your head on the floor. It's not
Yeah.
that. All right. So what else can you tell us about how that day went? You think you were over there about noontime until about 2
Yes.
in the afternoon?
Yeah. So we, in the summertime, we eat our biggest meal is lunch, and we would eat around 2 o'clock. So I know that I was back for lunchtime. We had gone, my sisters and I had gone approximately, quarter to 12, 12 o'clock, played in the pool, did the usual thing.
Yeah.
And Peter was not there. The guests were not there. And then Christine said, come over afterwards, and I said, okay, well, I mean, it wasn't like I was going to come for a real babysitting job and she's gone away, but because she was busy with her guests, and she was like an excellent cook and a homemaker and all that stuff. And so she was busy. She was busy with her guests, and so it would have helped out me watching Andrea. She wouldn't have to oversee her and stop and interrupt and all this other stuff. And so I left, went home for my lunch.
Okay. And then did you get on your bicycle to ride back to the Demeter household, or were you
No,
in your driveway when you were approached by your neighbor, the O'Day, Mr. O'Day from across the street?
I was walking. I did not ride my bike to the Demeters. I rode it when I went to Bell's, the little variety store.
Right. Because the house is so close. It's
Yeah,
just so quick to walk.
yeah. But
Um,
when I was
hey, you've
walking down,
never babysat for the O'Day family before,
no,
right?
no, never.
Did, had you spoken to Mr. O'Day before this Wednesday afternoon?
I well spoke with Mrs. O'Day more than him. We
Okay.
knew them. I mean, it's a small street.
They live across the street from you.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was, yeah, there was a friendship, but somehow they knew that because the tenants were gone, they knew the tenants were gone. They knew that I was babysitting Andrea. And then I'm walking down the driveway, my parents' driveway, and then here he comes. He says, "Hey, I need a hand." I can't remember the wife's name, but Mrs. O'Day, she's got to go to the hospital, do a quick shift, like a short shift.
She's a
And
nurse. Is she a
she's a
nurse?
nurse. Yeah, she's a
Okay.
nurse.
And what time was this that Mr. O'Day approached you when you were walking down your driveway?
It was
4:30?
about 4:30, quarter to five, something like that,
Well,
because I was planning
were
to
you
go there.
preparing to walk down to the Demeters? Were you
Yes,
actually going to do that?
yes, yeah,
So he intercepted you before you left your property.
yes. So I went back to tell my mother and my
Oh,
grandmother. My father wasn't there. I said, "Oh, you know what? They've asked me to go and take care of, the O'Day child, who
right.
was about 8 years old, 9 years old." And it was kind of weird. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." I didn't think to go to the Demeters because it was not like a formal thing. I knew there was
Okay.
guests, and
It
so
was tentative. You're welcomed, and we'd love to have you come down about 5 o'clock.
yeah,
And when you were on your way, you were intercepted by the
yes,
neighbors who you'd never babysat before. but
right.
they made it sound like an emergency compelling, like if you say no, you're kind
Yeah.
of rebuffing them in a bind.
Yeah.
So you
And I
kind of
was
felt
just
like you had an obligation to be a good neighbor.
exactly,
Whereas
especially
you always see Christina Ferrari
right.
on a daily basis anyway.
Yeah.
So I'll just do this.
Yeah. Basically, that's what happened. Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, okay. Jennifer and Shirley, why don't you ask Rose about this? Because I think this is actually very important. That this seems not important, but I think it's very important. I think Lieutenant Colombo or Reginald Smythe, we think it's important. But Jennifer, you go first. What do you think to ask Rose here?
Well, at this point in the story, everything is going according to plan and according to normal behavior. I mean, you're going to go babysit over at the O'Days, and Peter is out with his house guests, and Christine is home with her 3-year-old daughter who's watching television. So nothing is really amiss, and all I can say is, thank goodness you didn't
Well,
show up.
no, but it's last
No,
impromptu. It's very impromptu. There was no plan to babysit for the O'Days.
right, right, but
And there was
it's
no phone call to ask for her. He
Yeah.
intercepted her on the driveway when she's leaving her house
Yeah.
to
oh,
go to the Demeters.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think of
She's
that.
heading to the Demeters and he intercepts her before she arrives.
Right.
She's 6 houses away. She's heading that way,
Well,
but
are
she
you
hasn't left her driveway. Don't you
just
see?
okay? Are
That's
you
odd. It's never happened before.
okay? I didn't see it that way.
Yeah,
Um,
no, this has never happened in the history of civilization that Rose, who is a professional babysitter and has clients who babysits, she's never been asked by the O'Days to babysit, and she's been living across them for 4 years, and they've never asked her to babysit in 4 years. And you're telling me on Wednesday at 4:45 p.m. on the 18th of July, 1973, you suddenly have an emergency and you need me to babysit, and I've never babysat for you before? Like you don't have a go-to babysitter? I'm it.
no, I see. I see your point.
When something never has happened before
Mm.
happens, and within 4 hours of this happening, I have a dead 33-year-old woman. That's more than a coincidence.
So you think that maybe Peter asked his neighbor to ask Rose to babysit to make sure she wasn't around? Is that a
No,
possible? No,
no.
no.
I think the controllers who control this entire cul-de-sac talk to Mr. O'Day, who's plugged in. I think
Okay.
he's the one. He's the one that asked Rose to babysit, not
So
the one.
he's in on. So he's in on a larger plot, is what you're
Well,
suggesting.
he's part of this community of intelligence people.
Okay.
There's a church down the street. We're going to get to that. There's a church down the street. You know, churches are integrally important in military intelligence. All churches, Mormon churches, Catholic churches, Episcopalian churches, the Church
Brethren.
of Scientology, the Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, military intelligence, Buddhists. What's across the street from the State Department embassy in Saigon? The Catholic Church and the Buddhist temple.
Temple,
Do
yeah.
you know they have a tunnel system from where William Colby's office is? A tunnel system. One tunnel goes to the Catholic Church, one tunnel goes to the Buddhist temple from CIA headquarters. What a coincidence. In other words, both temples are plugged in to the State Department in Saigon. Now, we're talking about a suburb of Toronto, Canada. I'm not saying there's a tunnel system under Rose's house. I'm not suggesting that, although there could be. What I'm saying is she does have a church 4 houses away, and she has a murder crime scene 6 houses away, and then she has a neighbor directly across her driveway who she's never babysat before, ever, in over 4 years. Suddenly has an emergency. My wife has to go do a shift and I'm not going to be here. I believe verbatim that's what he told Rose. My wife has to work an emergency shift at the hospital and I can't be here. Can you please help me out by watching our daughter?
Yeah.
And that conversation has never happened in 4 years. And it happens the night that Christine Ferrari gets brutally murdered in her garage, and Rose is heading over to see that woman before she's killed. So I don't think this is a coincidence that Rose was being solicited to babysit. I think we have an emergency situation here where we know that Christine is supposed to be murdered in her garage, and that Peter's going to call her at 8:30 to make damn sure she goes into that garage. And we already are rolling the dice with the 3-year-old child, Andrea, who we do not want Christine to take with her into the garage. That's a problem.
I agree that this family would typically have a babysit, different standby babysitters that they would go to in emergency.
Right.
That it can't be the first time they needed a babysitter on the
right. Or worst case scenario, can't the husband, if this truly isn't, which I'm not necessarily buying the emergency, my nurse has to go. Do you have any idea how many nurses they have on standby? They have hundreds of nurses that can be down there in 15 minutes. Yeah. So you have a registry. You don't need to have this particular nurse on Dundas Crescent Court to go down there. They have many nurses who can cover. Okay. Yeah. So the idea that it has to be his wife, that part's not true. I was a chief financial officer of a hospital. I sat on the infectious committee. I worked with the nursing director on her budget every year for 4 years. I worked with the emergency room, which is run by a registered nurse. And I work with the contract physicians, because you do know that we don't have doctors on the payroll. We contract doctors. Right. Okay. Right. And they have a registry of physicians who I don't know many of the people. They just show up and staff the ER. Okay. That's all that matters, is that you staff the rooms. And I'm telling you that it doesn't have to be the nurse that lives in this particular neighborhood. And so if it were true that it had to be this nurse that's Mrs. O'Day, it had to be her, why can't her husband just take the daughter with him wherever he's going and have her, sit in the waiting room or sit in the car, listen to the radio in the parking lot or whatever? It doesn't have to be Rose who solves his babysitting problem. And Rose has never been a babysitter for him before, and she knows Christina Ferrari, and she knows Andrea, and she's just spent 2 hours with them at their home for lunch, and she's going back. Why am I going to roll the dice with the neighbors across the street? I mean, she did, which, by the way, totally solved the problem, because Rose being at the address 1437 Dundas Crescent Court is a major problem. How can I kill this 33-year-old woman? I got a 13-year-old babysitter sitting in the other room. I mean, this is not clean. Rose cannot be on the property. I don't want her on that property. And do you see, Jennifer? They fixed it. it. They intercepted her right at the last minute.
Yeah.
She was on her way, and they got her in the driveway.
Yeah.
So not only that they're surveilling the telephone calls and the conversations in the Demeter kitchen are being recorded, which we know the police admitted to recording their conversations in that house the day after the murder. But we don't know. They may have already been set up before the murder at the church across the street. They had 2 men over there 24/7 that they said were over there after the murder. Maybe those men were there before the murder, listening to everything that Christine Ferrari was saying about coming and going and the guests in the home, and whether we should get, Rose down here for more hours. Maybe Rose should stay overnight. Maybe. They're listening to all that. That's important intelligence information, because there are 2 things that can foil a murder, in my experience. One is a barking dog, and the other is a nosy babysitter, a little bit too smart for their own good babysitter, Rose. Okay? You get them off the property. And do you know Peter took the dog to go shopping at the mall when dogs are prohibited? In other words, you're going to leave the dog in the car for an hour to hour and a half when you could leave the dog home with Andrea and Christine, and the dog can run around the backyard, the pool, come in the living room, go in the kitchen. The dog is a Cocker Spaniel whose name is Satan. The name of the dog is the devil dog, right? They named the dog Devil. The dog is named Devil. What do you call Beetlejuice? No, it's Beetle. What the hell is the dog's name? They named their dog. I mean, no, they're not an occult family.
Beelzebub.
What's the dog's name?
Beelzebub.
Yeah, Beetle, Beetlejuice. Bug. It means demon. It means Satan.
That poor dog.
I know.
I mean, the dog didn't pick its name. Shirley, what did you say? What would the church lady say about this? Who would name their dog?
Yeah, Satan.
Their dog Satan.
The church
Shirley?
lady must be Satan. The church lady from Saturday Night Live. Yeah, must be Satan.
I don't know. Maybe
do the sound.
Satan would. Okay, so Peter removes the dog, and Mr. O'Day removes Rose off the murder scene. You think that's a coincidence? Rose, do you think that's a coincidence? 53 years later, you had 53 years to think about it. What do you think now, Rose?
Well, I always said that was divine intervention because as I spoke to my other two close people that were involved, I said, can you imagine if I'd been to the Demeter house that evening? It always haunted me. And speaking with you about it and all that, well, I thought it was God intervening, okay, to protect me. But I can understand that they're covering their bases. They definitely covered their bases. And because I wasn't liked by Peter, and we were like, I could feel it, he kind of scoring at me and my sisters. And he didn't like us being there. It was good when the Tennant family was gone and there were not a lot of people around. And that was actually, I also thought about it because the Tennants were closer to the O'Days than I was, but the Tennants were gone. They were at the cottage. So there was nobody around.
Isn't that interesting? Tell me about midweek church services on Wednesday. Did the church across the street from the Demeters have services that day?
I don't remember there being any service that day. I would have known because there would be cars.
What time would the services normally happen?
About 7 o'clock, 7 to 9.
Interesting. And the murder, we think, happened around 8:30 to 8:45.
Yeah.
And that would have interfered with people coming and going from the parking lot of the church,
Right.
there, which is directly across the street. And some of those people would look over at the garage area of the Demeter household, and maybe they would see, although it's not necessarily that they would see, because the murderers could have gone out the back door. And since you told me that the tenants are not home,
Right.
they could trespass in the backyard of the Demeter home and escape and walk through the church parking lot, where they might have a car parked in the church parking lot and then be driven away from the church. Or there may be a bedroom unit at the church and they go clean up and take a shower at the church. And if there was no church services, they'd have carte blanche, would they not? They could use the church, which is right across the street from the murder.
Right.
How easy is that? And who would suspect that a murderer is taking a shower at a church?
Yeah.
I wouldn't, except actually I would. That's like the first place I'd check out is the church. Because I know that's what they did at the Manson family. That's what they did at Dr. Victoria. They went to the St. Francis retreat. That's what they did at the William Colby murder. They went to the St. Francis retreat. Franciscan priests have showers, and you go use that. They have bedrooms too. You can sleep overnight, and a helicopter can pick you up tomorrow. We don't need to rush. You don't need to flee. There's no rush. No one is going to search the church. And not only that, the police intelligence unit uses the church for reconnaissance.
Right.
And for all I know, the people that are reconning Christine Ferrari's kitchen are the killers or working with the team who killed her. They could be a different team of guys on the same organization. But anyway, so Jennifer, do you see what I'm saying is that it's extremely unusual for Mr. O'Day to ever talk with Rose, let alone impromptu inviting her to babysit for the first time. And it happens to be the time of a capital murder at 1437 Dundas Crescent Court, cul-de-sac, which is number 33. If you add those numbers up, you get 15. 1 plus 5 is 6. 6 is a 3, 3. And Christine is 33 years old. The house is a 33 address. It's happening on July 18th, which is a 666. 666 is 18, mark of the beast. If you turn the back to that number, which Christine was turned face planted down, then it's a 999, just like John Kennedy. And then a 999 is a meta-dead. This is just like Aaron Valente, age 33. Her body found at a 666 address house, 6615 Bowes Lane, is a mark of the beast. And her back was facing the front door of that house. That means it's a 999. Jack Kennedy, he faced a 666 when he drove down Houston Street. Then he turned onto Elm and parked, his back facing the 666, making it inverted into a 999. Jack Kennedy killed in meta-dead location. So was Aaron Valente. So was Christine Ferrari Demeter. I think that mathematically is very low probability that's a freak accident, that those numbers all align like that. I think they had this date picked out for her. I think they knew they were going to kill her for weeks, and they were waiting for the right time. And they're not going to let a cocker spaniel with the name of Satan and a nosy babysitter ruin 3 months of planning. This guy, Peter Demeter, has been begging people to kill his wife for like 6 years. Like the day after they had their honeymoon, he's been wanting to kill his wife. I mean, because the pizza boy, Chaba, the Pizza Hut guy, he said that he's listened to hundreds of murder plots that Peter has told him, that made him listen to, since 1967. Well, they got married in 1967. So he's been plotting her death since they got married. I mean, damn. This has been a long time coming. Okay, Shirley, questions from you for Rose.
Well, Rose, I get chills when I think about this. What, if the timing and everything was, you could have been there. That's really incredible. The invitation from Christina to come back later, that was kind of impromptu, right? It's like, why don't you come back? See, that kind of confirms that too. Like, oh no, she could be a problem. We didn't, this popped up. We got to do something about this.
That was not supposed to happen, Shirley.
Yeah, that makes sense, because if it was planned, something else, that it wouldn't have been last minute. Maybe the other neighbor who you've never really spoken to, and you talk more to the wife, so I would think it would have been the wife who would have said, "Hey, I have to do a shift," unless she was already there. I don't know, but having him come and talk to you is kind of different as well. Right.
Yeah.
Also, your neighbors, your good friends, the tenants, they weren't there at all, right? They weren't, is that usual? They always go in the summertime, or?
Yes.
Right.
They would rent a cottage. Yeah, they would rent a cottage for 2 or 3 months. School was out at the middle of June. I don't know if they had it for June, but definitely July and August they were gone. But Mr. Tenant would come every week or every 10 days to check the house, and he maintained his own property, which was 3 acres. So it took a while for him to do the grass and the gardening and all that jazz. And but the kids were gone, and yeah.
So it was usually pretty isolated then in comparison to other times, huh?
Yes, definitely.
So then the pool that was one thing I wasn't sure. The pool is the Demeter's pool, right? The tenants didn't have a pool. It's just
didn't have
that.
a pool.
So, okay. So, and she was 3.5 years old. Okay. So yeah, I'm glad that you're here. That must have been quite something to, especially after the fact too. It just must have been so Shocking. Shocking.
Ugh.
You know.
Okay, yes. Now,
Yeah.
Shirley, it's interesting about the pool. Rose, I read in some of the articles that have been published on this case that the police found a garden hose with the water left running, and it was aimed into the pool, and that the swimming pool was actually at the verge of overflowing.
Right.
And had you heard that before?
Yeah, when you mentioned it, I do recall that. I recall that, but
Does that,
why?
I mean, it seems odd, doesn't it, that there'd
Bizarre.
be that,
Yeah.
like, who did that? Did Christine do that? Did Peter do it before he left to go to the jewelry store? Or did the pool look like it was the correct level when you were there at you left the property about 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Did the pool seem okay?
Yeah, there was no issue with the pool.
Okay.
They did have a part-time gardener, but he um I don't I think he was there that day, but Peter told him don't do any spraying or whatever, and I don't think he did anything. So I don't know. I don't know what happened
Okay.
with
It's
that.
kind of a non sequitur. It may
Yeah.
not mean anything, just kind of a weird thing. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But you said the police said that they instituted tapping the phones of Peter Demeter the next day, the 19th of July, because they suspected him being involved in the killing of his wife. They did not think that Peter did it because he had this alibi that he went to the mall with the four ladies and the dog. And they all found and discovered Christina dead in the garage when they arrived home at 9:45 p.m. So this is after sunset. And so there he's got an alibi. But because of his strange behavior, and what was the first thing that Peter did that was strange was suggesting that it was an accident before anyone knew anything. The first policemen were arriving about 10:05, and they continued to arrive for the next 20 minutes till 10:30. There probably a lot of car traffic on your street that night. And whilst you're babysitting the 8-year-old kid, the little girl of the nurse and the O'Day family, there's traffic going past that house down to the end to respond to some emergency. And the second thing that Peter did that was suspicious to police was he, after 20 minutes before 10:30 p.m., he asked the sergeant, "Can you get Christine out of here? Like she's a sack of potatoes or something?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, no, we have to take photographs and look at the scene and evaluate it. And that probably won't happen until tomorrow morning. And yeah, we can take her out, but the garage is a crime scene. So you can't use the garage." I mean, it's like implying like you plan on using the garage or something. You don't put the Mercedes in the No, you can't put the Mercedes in here. It's a crime scene, right? Now, another thing that's odd is that the police never really suspected that there'd be any crime in the house or around the pool. But they did walk through the house and they did walk around the pool, whereupon they found the garden hose in the pool and the pool being overflowing. So I'm assuming they turned the water off. But they allowed Peter and his guests, 4 women, to stay overnight in the main home. They didn't suggest that they go to hotel motels. They let them continue to stay there. Now that completely disqualifies any evidentiary value of the house now because you've tainted it. And so that may have been a mistake. Maybe not, because the killers probably did not go in the kitchen. They probably didn't. But the point is a little unprofessional. It's a little unprofessional. Like you already kind of wrapping this thing up. You're going to blame Peter. And it's kind of, they suspected Peter and Peter did it. And the question is, if you can beat him up in interrogation, he'll tell you who did it, if he knows who did it. But if you really do it correctly, you won't know who did it. In other words, you get a broker, the broker gets some person I don't know who it is. It could be somebody from Hungary, like Budapest or something, right? But then they fly in and they fly out, and it's like, I don't know. So if it's professional, you won't know who did it. You won't know if it's really professional. If it's amateur hour, then yeah, you could beat a confession out of somebody. But the point is that if you did beat a confession out of a professional situation, you wouldn't get an answer because they don't know. They really don't. You can beat them up, but you're not going to get the truth. That's super professional. And it seems we have that in this case because Peter never cracked. He never made a deal to get out early or anything. He never cracked, but probably because he doesn't know who did it. He probably personally does not know who killed his wife. Wanted his wife dead. So that part's okay. But as far as did he personally sit down with the guy and talk about the plan? Probably not. He probably had little to nothing to do with it except to make that phone call. They told him, tell your wife to go in the garage. We got all this covered. And to keep Peter as minimized as possible to incriminate himself later. And Peter never did. Now, Peter did incriminate himself in 4 other felony homicides, including arson. Well, actually 5 felony crimes: arson, 2 kidnappings, and 2 planned murders. So that's 5 felony, 4 life imprisonment sentences added on to the planning and plotting of the non-capital murder of Christine Ferrari. All right. So what strikes you, Rose, in retrospect now? I mean, I really want to give you an opportunity to reflect on this now because I know it's been an emotional baggage you've carried for 53 years. And I have an idea what that feels like. And I also know what it's like to want to tell people something that you know is truthful, and then people not believing you and saying, you know, maybe you've been drinking or you've lost your way or I worry about you. Those are patronizing things to say to an intelligent person who is not, you know, a tinfoil conspiracy nutcase. As you know, on this channel, we don't cover conspiracy theories at all. We cover plots, felony murders, which are planned in secret, and there's no public noticing. And you do know that 99 to 100% of all felony crimes are done secretly in a conspiracy involving more than 2 people, 2 or more people, and illegal is all it requires to have a conspiracy. And every bicycle race you'll ever do will involve a conspiracy. It won't be a criminal conspiracy because it's just sport. It's just sport, right? But you can't successfully be competitive amongst experienced people unless you bluff and you deceive and you lie and you trash talk or you talk smack and you try to get people to burn energy, to weaken them, to put them out of position, and then you attack them. You attack when your enemy is vulnerable. It's much easier to succeed when your enemy is weak. That's the art of war. And so that applies to felony murder. And so anybody out there that thinks that felony murder is conspiracy whack job, I mean, they should be institutionalized. They're the ones that are nuts because that's how our world works. Dr. Dave Gregg told me when I was 15 years old, when I said this thing, conspiracy theory, that term, he looked at me and he said, juxtaposition, everything important in this world is a conspiracy. Everything. And it was like, you better wake up, son. You're 15. Grow up. That's what a world-class chemistry physicist, PhD in physics and chemistry with over 275 patents with the Department of Energy. That's what he told me. He told me everything's a conspiracy. Is he a whack job? I mean, they gave him a big office. He got all these awards. They wouldn't publish his book. He had to self-publish it. And then they made him Asshole of the Month in Hustler magazine. That's what he did when he published his book. He immediately was ridiculed by Hustler magazine. Although I told him, that's like an Academy Award. Are you crazy? That's an Oscar. To be Asshole of the Month of Hustler? Like, you're like more famous than Ronald Reagan. You're above him. I mean, he's not Asshole of the Month. You are. I mean, it's an honor. And then Dave, big smile. We went out and got pizza. He was all depressed. I go, no, it's an award. It's like a Nobel Prize, man. It's big. It's more important. I mean, let's be honest. You would rather be not an award recipient of the Nobel Prize. You want to be a Nobel laureate. All right. So, Jennifer, what do you think about this case? I think we can wrap this up as part one. We can always come back. This case has so many Hungarian criminals that we could talk about who all have. We have Mr. X. We have Mr. Stark. We have Mr. Plastic Bag over his head with the slits in there. Testifying. We have Rose on the witness stand for 45 minutes at the criminal trial. We have her recollection of what questions were asked of her. And the lawyers were all, like F. Lee Bailey, Melvin Belli, celebrity lawyers. That's who interviewed Rose, was the F. Lee Bailey guy. He's a Jewish lawyer, Greenspan. All right, Jennifer, take it away.
Well, you've convinced me now that Mr. O'Day was ordered or told, you've got to stage an intervention. Don't allow Rose to get into this house. And this makes me suspect that maybe there were listening devices going on in the house prior to the murder, and that they were listening to what the plans were for the evening. That's been my thinking at this point. So, yeah, that's it, and it makes it more nefarious to think that there was a wider network within the neighborhood of people who are somehow in on it or being controlled or part of a controlling situation. I don't know, but it's a little spooky.
Well, another thing that is kind of a clue for us is if you look at the witnesses that were called at the murder trial for Peter Demeter, it reads kind of like the O.J. Simpson case. In other words, they're bringing in witnesses who weren't really directly involved in the murder of Nicole Brown. Mm-hmm. And they're very entertaining. I mean, Cato Kalin. Don't make me say Cato Kalin more than once. Okay. Faye Resnick would have been a hoot, but they decided not to call her Faye Resnick. But they did call Keith Zalomowitz, who is a lover of Nicole, and he's the general manager of the Metzlin restaurant. But was he present for the murder? No. So in a lot of ways, like, why are we calling him, really? They called the wife of Steve Garvey, the first baseman of the Dodgers, and she's in the media business. And her child goes to the same school Nicole's children go to. So they called her because she's a mommy. Is she a neighbor? No. Was she there that night? No. Did she witness any killers fleeing the property? No. Oh, great. So your child goes to the same school. There must be 500 parents whose children go to that school. Should we call them all? I mean, but they're not Cindy Garvey because she's beautiful. She's blonde. She's very attractive. And, she's looking for work. She's always looking for work. And it's a waste of time. Well, we have that going on in this trial of the murder of Christine Ferrari because they call these clowns, these kind of third-rate burglars for the Hungarian mafia in the Toronto area. I mean, the Duck? Really? You're going to call the Duck? Now, the Duck flew. He flew away. So we want the Duck, but the Duck's gone. He flew the coop. Right. So we don't know where he is. And the Duck's name is Emery Olichik. And allegedly, he's the one that conked. Everybody thinks he's the one that conked Christine Ferrari over the head. And he's missing. He's the Duck. Ducks are amphibious. He's gone. He flew the coop. All right. But he's in the story, but we can't call him. Then we have Stark. Vert Stark, to be specific. And none of these people use their correct name. And Vert Stark is a member of the French Foreign Legion. Well, that's not good. They're professional killers. You don't have to be French to be in the French Foreign Legion. They'll take anyone who will shoot a gun. Anyone that will use a bayonet, you can be in the French Foreign Legion. You can be an Iranian. You can be a Chinese communist. You can be a gook from the Viet Cong. You can be one of Jane Fonda's friends. It doesn't matter. You can be a Hungarian and you can be in the French Foreign Legion. So it turns out that Stark, he is in there too. And he knows hundreds of people who kill people. So he's in the story. And then we got the pizza guy, Chaba Zalagi. And he has been listening to murder plots from Peter Demeter for 6 years. And one of the questions was, did you at any time call the Toronto Police Department or the Peel Police Department to say that one of your customers is plotting the murder of his wife? No. Well, do you know that's a crime? So now you got the pizza guys on the ropes because he's guilty of not reporting, because now we have a felony murder, right? I mean, she's dead. And this guy's known about it for 6 years. He never said anything, right? So that de facto makes the pizza man, Chaba, a co-conspirator of murder, does it not? So he agrees. He's on the stand for several days. He's testifying against his pizza customer, Peter Demeter. Rose, do you see? So you can't believe anything Chaba says because the DA's told him what to say, or else I'm going to charge you with co-conspiracy to kill Christina Ferrari. So he's just going to repeat what the DA tells him to say. So you can't listen. If I'm a juror, I'm going to tune him out. Mr. Stark, you're a French Foreign Legion. They train you to lie. You're never going to tell the truth. You're military intelligence. So I'm going to tune Mr. Stark out. Now they bring a guy with a plastic bag over his head with slits that they call Mr. Smith. And but his real name is Tom Smith, which is a fake name. Tom Smith. Okay, right. He's a hooded witness. They bring in a hooded witness who testifies that he met with Christina.
Yeah.
That he met with Christina Ferrari about the murdering of her husband at the Silver Dollar Bar, the Silver Dollar, and that after her murder, he was seen betting on the ponies and buying drinks for everyone back at the Silver Dollar Saloon. And he testifies that Christina deserved it because she was going to kill the husband. Well, I'm just telling you, my policy is if you wear a bag over your head and you want to tell me a story under oath, I'm not going to really buy that story. Okay. I don't listen to plastic bag heads. But anyway, we had that in this case. We got Mr. X. Who's Mr. X? Is he a porn star? Well, I don't know, but his name is Gaila Verag, and he's a killer for hire broker. He works on commission. So like if you need somebody to kill somebody, let me know and I'll refer someone and I get a commission, right? But I don't kill anyone. Mr. X, he has to tell his story. Okay, my point here, and then of course we bring in the Hungarian boxer who is not a Canadian citizen, but has lived in Canada for 30 years and he's not a citizen. So what are you, a secret agent? Joseph, the Enforcer, DiNardo, not his real name. No, he has a name. He has a name and it's Gabor, like Zsa Zsa Gabor. He's Gabor something or other. Anyway, Joseph DiNardo, he says Christine wanted him to break Peter's arms and legs. So he referred her to Laszlo Epir, who could kill Peter if he wanted her to. Then I don't believe a single one of those Hungarian circus clowns. They all have done deals with the prosecution. So their testimony is all bought and paid for. Then to make this case more complicated, although I'm not going to take this too seriously, we have these other killings going on in Rose's backyard. We have Constant Dickey, age 19, abducted, raped, and murdered, and body disposed of basically in the backyard of this cul-de-sac's open space, basically in the backyard of the Demeter household near the Credit River. Constant Dickey, age 19, dead that summer, the summer of 1973. Netta Novak, age 18, abducted, raped, and murdered, her body disposed of in the backyard of the murder of Christine Ferrari. Julia Shelton, age 16, She was abducted and raped and left for dead, but didn't die. Identified her killer. They made an arrest. He confessed to the 2 murders and the rape. He's a 24-year-old married man with 2 children. Sounds kind of suspicious to me. But anyway, you see, maybe his name is Henry Robert Williams. Henry Williams. Did he kill Christine Ferrari Demeter? It was Henry Williams? He's working that neighborhood. He's killed 2 women and raped a 3rd, and Christine could be the 4th. And this is in a neighborhood that has no rapes, no homicides, not even any burglaries on this street. And this summer, that Rose is suddenly impromptu asked to babysit for the people across the street, the O'Days, impromptu, have had 3 murders and 1 felony rape in 90 days. I mean, and everybody's gone on to the lakes to be in their cottages, and there's Rose at age 13, home alone, and everybody's getting killed all around her. I mean, this is like really scary. And this is like Beverly Hills. This is like really nice neighborhood. These are nice homes. And all of a sudden, we got a crime wave and a heat wave, because Rose will tell you it was like 90 degrees with a lot of humidity that week. All right, Rose, you got to tell this part. 1 week before the murder of Christine Ferrari Demeter, you went from your home to the grocery store on your bicycle to get some milk and some groceries. And you pedaled down the cul-de-sac and you passed the Demeter house, which is beyond your right, and you're headed to the store to get your groceries. Tell us what happened. This is about a week before the murder. So around the 11th of July. Go ahead.
So there were 2 men that were sitting in front on the grass in front of the pool. So the pool was to the east of the house, and it was fenced off with the chain link and cedar trees, small cedar trees. So you could kind of see the pool from the road. You could see if somebody was outside, but I don't remember seeing anybody at the house. I believe the house was empty. And these 2 men are sitting on the grass approximately, I would say 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, something like that. And I rode my bike and they looked at me and I looked at them. I just thought it was very, very strange that they were sitting there. They didn't have lunch with them. They weren't like utility workers. They were wearing polo shirts, tight polo shirts, and they were definitely European, because in those days, that's what because my cousins that lived with us, they were wearing those types of shirts. And I drove by, and
What was their ages, do you think, approximately?
Like my father's age, 37, 38, something like that.
All right,
okay.
Thank you.
And so I went to Bell's, the variety store, and I came back with the bread and milk. It was just small groceries, and they weren't there anymore. But it always stuck with me. This always stuck with me. It was the strangest thing. And that was one thing I did tell the police when they asked me, did you see something strange? I said, well, there were these 2 men, right? It was the weirdest thing. And basically what I've just said here.
Oh, well, tell Jennifer and Shirley and the audience what the reaction of the police was when they were asking you what you knew and what you saw and heard, and you told them you saw 2 strange men. How did they respond? How did the police investigators respond to that?
It was dismissive, really. I did not feel I was taken seriously. And that, and then it kind of made me feel like, I know I was only 13 years old, but I was not a dumb 13-year-old person. I was actually, I seemed more mature for my age, let me say that, just because of my family dynamics and being the eldest of 3. I had a lot of responsibilities, and I was doing a lot of things that other 13-year-olds were not doing. And so it made me feel like maybe I was imagining something, but it stuck with me all these years. All these years, and my two confidants that I spoke to about this, which were the tenants, Mrs. Tennant and the oldest daughter, they were the only ones I really talked about this, and it just stayed with me all these years. It stayed with me, and it was as I mentioned when you Juxta said, "Well, there were probably two killers here," and I thought, I think that's exactly what it was.
Well, when
And
I say two killers, multiply times four, it'd be eight. But you have a perimeter team that will not go on the property,
right,
but they're looking for people like yourself or a dog walker who comes down whilst they're underway with dealing with Christine. They
yeah,
don't want to be interrupted. And so if you're in the garage, you can't tell if Rose is coming down the street.
right,
So you get a second pair of eyeballs, like watch, because I know there's a nosy 13-year-old down there. So do not let her get to the driveway. Don't let her get to the driveway. You intercept her by the church, church. She does not get past that church, right? Because the church is actually a little bit further. It's closer to your house than the Demeter's driveway is. So I would not want you on the perimeter of that house. I want to keep you at least one house away. And so you have a team to do that. And in every murder I've ever looked at, they always have a perimeter team. Always. The La Biancas, the Cielo Drive, the Oda family, there's a perimeter team. And they are not going to let someone wander onto the property, especially a dog walker or a babysitter. And they're petrified of dogs. They're okay with kitty cats. Kitty cats, not a big deal. Dogs are a problem. Dogs bark and they show their fangs. And this is very distracting. If you're a burglar or a murderer, it's like, hey, I don't have time to deal with this. I'm doing this, right? It's like, so stay on the topic of the tenants, especially, since you know them so well, is that after the funeral for Christina Ferrari, Peter is not arrested. He is a suspect. He's a person of interest. And we go at least another month before he is arrested. He's not arrested until, I think, the end of August or middle of August. So we have about a month of freedom for Peter. Into the story comes the other woman. The other woman, Marina Hunt, spelled Hundt. She's a younger clone version of Christine Ferrari. They're both beautiful fashion models from Austria. And Marina is from Vienna. I think she was born in Vienna, raised in Vienna. She's a couple years younger. I think she's more than a couple years. I think she's 5 years younger. I think she's 13 years younger than Peter is, about 13 years younger than Peter. And Peter is 40, and that would make Marina 27 years old. And of course, the deceased is 33, and she's a model, and the 27-year-old is a model. And she is now replacing her, and she is going to move into Christina Ferrari's home because Christina is dead and buried. And within, real quick, like a bunny rabbit, we move the new girl in, and she brings a horse, and she's in charge of the devil dog, the satanic dog, Beetlejuice. How did you ever talk to Mrs. Tennant about how she felt about this new girl who's naked or topless at the pool with a horse? Which I don't know if there's a ranch permit in your neighborhood. I don't think so. Do you guys running a farming operation in there that I don't know about? Okay, tell me about this woman. She comes in from Austria and she just takes over the cul-de-sac with her pony. Right. Okay,
it was
what happened? That's crazy.
This was like a full-grown horse. Okay.
Like how big? Like really big?
Well,
like 10 feet tall. Like
I mean, you had to. Yeah, it was a big horse.
Daniel Boone. All right.
we were not happy. The neighbors were not happy that
Okay.
Marina had moved into the house. And then, of course, she brings the horse. And this was in the summer. Okay. And
Oh
because
my God. Did she have like a big truck with hay bales pull up and like unload? You know?
that I
Okay.
didn't see
All right.
that
Well,
part.
how did Mrs. Tennant tell? What kind of stories did she vent in front of you?
Well, she
The
was
going
horrified.
through.
She was a churchgoer at the church on the street, right?
All
So
right.
she always would have ladies over for tea. There was
After
all
after
kinds of
service.
meetings at the Tennant house.
All right.
A- And Mr. Tennant, as I mentioned, he was
So the
retired.
swimming pool is right next door to them, right?
Right, right.
Okay.
So
So
they
he would
can,
maybe look over the hedgerow and see
yeah,
like who's over at the Demeter house. We know that Jennifer, pardon me, we know that Christine Ferrari is no longer using the pool. She's dead.
right. Yeah.
But is anyone else using the pool?
Yeah, Marina, she's walking with her bikini on and she's topless.
Okay, she's wearing her
Okay.
bottoms. Okay.
She's wearing her bottoms. Mr. Tennant is doing the gardening and stuff. And so he was distracted, which of course bothered Mrs. Tennant
Right.
because
Because she's very beautiful, this
yes,
beautiful I guess she's an equestrian. We call her like a horse
yes,
lady. She's like Lady Godiva.
yeah, right, exactly.
All right,
Yeah,
Jennifer, does that make sense that this would happen?
No, I would have to think there's some animal control law about bringing a horse in the neighborhood. I mean, the horse is going to poop and make noise.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you just can't really do that. I mean, does she gallop
well, she
around?
did. She did do it.
Well, I know, but she got away with it. She shouldn't have. I mean,
Yeah.
Did anyone call the police?
you know what? I don't know how long the horse was there, but it definitely was summertime. And she left a bad taste in the neighborhood, definitely. And she would ride the
Well, didn't you
horse
say
on
she
the
would
road.
walk the horse up and
Yeah,
down the cul-de-sac?
yeah, yeah.
Did she have the little devil dog with her, the Cocker Spaniel?
No, no.
Okay. All right. So
He
that
was
would be
left.
a separate.
well, that's not good for the horse either to be in that
Yeah,
type of situation. So,
exactly.
but
There was a big open space behind. Did the horse go down to the park?
I
And it's
don't
not,
know.
it's right next to the park. You could go
Yeah,
over there.
it's
And she could ride
possible.
the pony over at the park, I think.
It
It's
was not
big.
a pony. It was a big horse. The big
Well,
thing.
but yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah.
yeah, Rose, can I ask you about these two guys that you saw?
Yeah.
When you said you looked at each other, they looked at you and you looked at them. I mean, was it just a real casual thing, or did you feel like there was an eye contact, like a vibe? Like, did you feel anything menacing, or was just nothing? Was there anything that stayed with you in terms of a
I
look?
I just remember feeling uncomfortable. It's like nobody would sit in front of on the grass on this dead end street. Like, what are they doing? If they were having lunch, I could understand it, or a
Yeah,
coffee, smoking a cigarette, whatever. Like, what are they doing there?
There's
Um,
trees there, right? There's shade there. There is shade.
yes. Yeah, there is
There
shade.
actually are trees on that end of the cul-de-sac.
Right.
There's quite a few trees on their property.
Yes.
Big trees, big trees.
But they weren't, they weren't involved in a conversation. They looked at me, and that bothered me. It just bothered. I felt it was like I said, it stayed with me all these years.
well, I respect your instincts on that. I think whatever you're feeling was legitimate and valid, and they probably were involved in some way. That sounds like it to me.
Shirley, what do you think about either those two Eastern European men in their 30s, or has any of your neighbors moved in with a big mature horse that's going to be your neighbor, the big horse and the
Well, I
whinnies?
think the topless part would have
Oh,
disturbed a lot of the women in the neighborhood, to tell you the truth. But
I mean, she's 27, 28. She's got a big
yeah,
pony.
yeah,
You
I
know,
think that
you
would
can
be an
see
issue.
everything when she sits on the horse.
Yeah, that would be a discussion at coffee with
All right.
church. Yeah.
The church
But
is right across the street. This is right in
yeah.
front of the church.
Yeah. I think also I agree with Jennifer that your instincts are top. If that felt uncomfortable, there's a reason for it. And you expect to see somebody doing something, they're fixing something, they're doing something, but just sitting there staring back at you in an area that's usually pretty quiet in homes, that would be odd. And yeah, could you identify them? Like if you did see them do a crime later, would you have been able to identify them? Would that be a possibility or no?
I don't know. I mean, could I? I don't know. I mean, maybe in the
Yeah.
subconscious I could. I don't know. But I know they were not Anglophones. Okay. They were definitely Slavic, Hungarian. Like I'd been around these types of people from my father's relationships and stuff. And so I would say they were Eastern European and also the way they dressed.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. That would be a good question. Like I think our subconscious does have a memory
Yeah.
and it could
Well,
be retrieved. Yes, I believe that.
being, being an intelligent 13-year-old, they did not, I wouldn't, if I was doing a crime, I wouldn't want you to see something, you know what I mean? It would
Right.
be definitely a reason to keep you away. Another question I replayed in my mind with the 3.5-year-old. That's such a risk, though, to have her she could have followed mom to the garage, And I
Definitely.
mean, did they say anything about that during all this afterwards, the trial? Like, what was she doing, or was she just
Oh,
asleep, or no, nothing? Just,
I
yeah,
think I just want to ignore that.
yeah.
yeah,
I think that's important and kind of shows a lack of professionalism in the crime to have a 3.5-year-old in the other room while you kill the mother. I really don't think the Chicago outfit would do something like that.
yeah,
I
just
really don't. I
seemed
can't
odd.
think of any examples where they kill you with your family nearby. Usually, Johnny Roselli was on a boat on Biscayne Bay. He was
Yeah,
staying at his sister's house. They could have gone over and killed him at his sister's house, but they didn't. They took him to lunch in Fort Lauderdale. Then they invited him on a boat ride. Then they garroted him. But his sister
yeah,
was not on the boat.
yeah.
And if
It
they went
just,
to his house, they're implicating his sister. So they made damn sure not to include the family members. In this
right.
case, we have the daughter, Andrea, in the living room watching television. Now, she could have just on her own wandered into the garage. She
Yeah.
could have gone
Right.
down the stairs into the garage and found her mother.
Right.
Right. Right. That
I think
haunts me a
this
little
is,
bit when you think about all that. Yeah. Not right.
it's
Yeah,
not right.
something's off with that.
It's the one thing that makes this case, different than like the Sharon Tate and the Lena LaBianca. They didn't do that with them.
Yeah.
Okay. And that they didn't do that with the Victor Oda family. And I mean, go right down the list. They didn't do it with the Zodiac. They they're more careful. Now they use different ways of killing people, and some are messy and some are real sanitary. So you can't really judge it based on the method of murdering. But you can base it on whether family members are nearby. And this case, we have that with the 3.5-year-old. So it bothers me because I'd like to declare it a gladio kill, but I can't because of the fact that it's kind of sloppy. And but what I do think is that the people that live on Rose's Street, a great many of the people that live on her street are in military intelligence. And that would include if you work at a hospital, because hospitals are military intelligence, and that includes the church across the street. The church across the street. The church across the street is a hub for military intelligence. And they probably have every single home surveilled in the kitchen and in the living room and the telephones. And that would include the tenant family. And that would include all the homes all the way down to the end of the street where Rose lives. She's 6 houses down to the O'Day house. I think the O'Day house is their phones are tapped, and that O'Day is tied into the network. And that normally if we don't need you, we don't need to call you. But if we do have a problem because in my neighborhood today, they call it neighborhood watch. So when I'm describing here in Rose's cul-de-sac, I'm not telling you anything that doesn't apply to me personally too. I have neighbors spying on neighbors. Do you know I have neighbors who they are addicted to being on neighborhood watch? And I had one of my neighbor tell me all about it. And I said, so are you in it? He goes, oh, no, I'm not. I go, how do you know all about it then? Well, my wife's in it. Oh, okay. So your wife is a spy. And then you look over her shoulder, which I got news for you, pal. That makes you a spy too. If you're, well, I'm not the one who's logging on. I got into it with this guy. They have access to all the Ring cameras in our neighborhood. And do you know when you're walking your dog and you stop and talk to your neighbor, they record that. Not only do they listen to it, they'll listen to it the next day. Like you had that conversation, they'll listen. They may not be logged in then, but they'll play back all the dog walking. The case you don't know how Ring cameras work, it's ambient sensor. Ambient means movement or sound or light. So if someone shines a light on your front doorbell or makes a sound like drops their car keys or stomps their feet, the camera records. The camera, which includes the recording audio, it's audio and visual with infrared. So they have night vision. So you're being recorded visually and audio. Then when you walk away, it turns off. So the camera's not on all the time. It only is on when there's activity in front of it. And then the neighbor can go back and see, oh, I've got an hour of surveillance collected here over a 24-hour period. So in a 24-hour period, maybe they only have 1 hour, but they'll listen to it to see if any of the neighbors and dog walkers are domestic terrorists, or we should forward this to our sheriff's department, to the Intelligence Fusion Center. That's what I'm referring to on Rose's cul-de-sac, which is called Dundas Crescent Court, or because it is a dead end, so it's a court. And they had a neighborhood watch program in 1973, not as sophisticated as today, where it's worse, where every home is surveilled. Even if you don't have a Ring camera, your neighbor across the street does, then he's got your porch covered and your garage. And if you get into a family argument, you're arguing with your husband, they'll record that and they'll play that tape to the sheriff, and they can decide if there's a domestic violence charge. I swear that is where we're going, and people will get arrested or their children will be taken away with Child Protective Services if they abuse their children in the neighborhood and it's recorded on a flock camera, a Ring camera. Then that'll give the judge a basis to remove the children from your house, and you'll have to hire a lawyer for a lot of money to defend your parental rights. Well, we had parts of that in 1973, and I believe that the police intelligence department had Christine Ferrari Demeter's home surveilled for years before she was killed, and that the police didn't set up the tapping of her phones the next day like they said they did. It was already set up. And then they were listening more intently when we have a dead body. If you don't actually have a dead body, maybe you don't really need to pay attention. But otherwise, now Peter becomes a priority on the radar screen, and they tried to entrap him because they went down to the pizza place with Chaba, and they threatened Chaba. Let me just tell you what's not missing in the story. They dragged Chaba into the DA's office. And the DA said, we're going to charge you in the murder of Christine Demeter. I had nothing to do with it. We heard that you're a good friend of Peter Demeter, and we suspect he arranged the murder of his wife. Well, that's crazy. That's not me. Yeah, but he's a personal friend of yours from Hungary, and he goes to your pizza place all the time, and you guys have a lot of conversation together, and he's told you about plots to kill his wife, and you've never reported them ever. So you're a cohort and a co-conspirator. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Okay, tell you what. I want you to call Peter every third day and bait him. Here are the questions I want you to ask him. And that's what Pizza Boy did. pizza boy, who's just a couple years younger than Peter. He's like 36, 37 years old. He's a fellow Hungarian, and he called Peter on the phone at his home when Peter was home from work to entrap him in the murder of his wife. And Peter never, ever said that he knew who killed his wife. Because you know what? I don't think Peter knows who killed his wife. But he did make Peter look guilty, that he was happy and satisfied that Christina's gone. So based upon $1.1 million of life insurance that he would collect, based upon the fact that he wanted Christina's body removed from the garage, lickety split when the police showed up, and based upon the fact that he is not unhappy that she's dead, and based upon the fact that Marina Hunt has moved into his home with her pony and her Lady Godiva act, based on those four things, they arrested him and then put him on trial and convicted him of plotting to kill his wife. How do you like them apples, Jennifer? And this is Rose. We thought Rose grew up in this nice neighborhood. Turns out she's living in freaking Blood Alley. I mean, literally, she's in a crime scene. I mean, I never lived in an area that had 3 homicides of women, age 33, 19, and 18, and a felony rape of a 16. That's 4. I have no. Now, I'll cop to it. The home that I grew up in with all my wonderful memories, we sold that house when I was in 10th, going to 10th grade. And we moved away. And then within 2 years of me moving out of my beautiful house, the Sears family, the youngest son, they had 2 sons, husband and wife. The youngest son, after the mother went off to work and his eldest son, his brother, went off to a private college prep school, he confronted his father in the foyer of my home, which is right next to my bedroom, about an affair that his father was having, an extramarital affair with someone from his office. And the son, who was 13 years old, he was Rose's age, 13, pulls out a 38 caliber pistol and empties it into the head of his father at the front door of my home, my childhood home.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. And that address is 6042 Broadway Terrace. 6042 is 3333. It's a 12. It's a Masonic number. So there was no murder when I lived there. But as soon as I moved out, there was. So don't feel bad, Rose. I did have one. It's just not when I was living there. It was right when I left, they did. So it can happen to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I still have fond memories. It didn't wreck my memories, but I don't like the fact that that home has got a ghost in it now, because it's creepy. It's just creepy to kill somebody in your house that you have happy memories in that house. Yeah. Many guests have been through that foyer into the living room and into the dining room where we had Christmas dinners, Thanksgiving dinners, Easter brunches, and you kind of messed it up by killing somebody in the entry hall. I mean, really? I mean, couldn't you do it in the backyard? I mean, why have to be the entry hall? But anyway, so we have that going on in this case where it's a pristine neighborhood, and the University of Toronto is right across the Credit River. And there's this big park and open space area that does have some poison ivy in it. But the point is, it's beautiful. You can fish, hike, run, and apparently, who knew, you can race your horses around there too, as we learned from Lady Godiva, aka Marina Hunt. Any final comments here, and we'll sign off, Rose?
Well, I mean, I really appreciate all the time you have spent on this. I mean, you've gone through it in so much detail, and it really has helped me. I kind of kept things quiet because I kind of felt I was ridiculed a little bit with the things I had said to the police, and it was discounted because of my age. And it just stayed with me all this time. And now you've taken the time to go through it. You've brought out some things that I didn't really see. And I always thought that the coincidence, like how could that be? It just puzzled me. But it was planned. This was a planned murder.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and even though it was kind of amateur, it definitely was planned. And I'm so glad, of course, that I am alive. And I mean, even experiencing it, I learned a lot, but I learned more as time went on. And in the middle of it, and then the trial, just too much going on. As I grew and matured and had my own life experiences, like I said, I didn't share this with a lot of people except for Mrs. Tennant and her older daughter, who is still my long-term friend. Um, but this has really helped a lot
Well,
talking about it.
I have a lot of photographs. I want everyone to look down at Christina Ferrari Demeter's beauty, her beautiful photographs. Um, I want to devote a little bit of time here with you, giving us your impressions. You were a confidant of the murder victim here, Christina Ferrari, were you not, Christina? Didn't you call her Christina?
Yes, Christina.
And do you feel that she was sort of in a gilded cage, that she was trapped in kind of a loveless marriage with
Definitely.
a man who was detached, and that she was kind of stuck, and she was trying to figure out, how I have a daughter, how can I leave this marriage? I don't have any money. I'm Her status as a Canadian, I think, was provisional. She had seen a divorce lawyer just 2 weeks before her death, and the lawyer said she was interested in her Canadian status post divorce, and what would the child support and or spousal support be if she moved forward with the divorce. Peter is like you said, shrewd businessman. He would probably not just cave in. It is his house. I believe that home was purchased by him, not her, and that the marriage came after broke the ground for the house. And so she wouldn't be getting any of that house or a settlement on that house. And that's a expensive home with a pool. And so you see, she is investigating like what is possible to get out of this marriage when she gets killed. And so do you feel, is it fair to characterize it as she's kind of looking to escape, and she gets murdered before she executes on the divorce? And she's
Yes.
got the 1.1 million life insurance. That's only been in force for less than a year. That policy is a new policy. And Peter maybe thinks he's going to collect on it $1,100,000. That's like $10 million today. At least 10 million today. What do you say about that?
Well, obviously at the time I didn't know this, didn't think about it, but Mrs. Tennant was her true confidant. Mrs. Tennant was in her 50s, and Christina did say a lot of things to her about her unhappiness, and it was a loveless marriage. And I learned this from Mrs. Tennant. She didn't tell me this when I was 15. It was
Right.
later, obviously, after I got married, and we had time to share. I didn't have the maturity to absorb it. But I felt, looking back, I felt very sorry for her. She was like really a stunning woman, beautiful to look at. She had an open personality. I mentioned she was an excellent cook, great laugh. And I remember the time with Andrea, I mean, the giggles and stuff at the pool. It was really kind of a magical time. But knowing that she was really in a cage, she was a prisoner. And that hurt, knowing that. I mean, the fact that she had a lover or whatever she had before, it didn't, I didn't take that as, oh, she was a bad
So did
woman.
he. So did he, right? And he
Yes.
spent a week with Marina, who we now know as Lady Godiva with the pony. He
Right.
spent almost a week with her in Montreal, 30
Right.
days before his wife was killed.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and her affair had ended about a year before her murder, as
Right.
far as we know. And so they're both doing independent romances,
Right.
and they're living in the same home, and they're raising a 3.5-year-old daughter. But it looks like Peter's not that interested in the neighbor children coming over and socializing with his daughter, because he prefers his own privacy, or he's just not into kids. It doesn't
Right.
look like he's into children.
Right.
He's not a fatherly, loving, nurturing father type. He's
I
more
didn't
of
see
a I date models type.
Right. I didn't see him be affectionate with Andrea at all. Okay,
Okay.
like a father with, I mean, she was the cutest thing. She was really
Okay.
adorable. I
But
didn't see him
you
that.
was Christine nurturing, loving mother?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Okay,
she
so that's
was.
good.
She was lovely, lovely person.
Well, that helps me understand what the hell's going on down there at the end of the cul-de-sac, because they're the second house from the end.
Mhm.
And we talk, Shirley and I talk about strange occurrences, at the Ben Hogan Golf Course Country Club. And this is a very strange occurrence on, Dung, what's it?
Dundas. Dundas.
Dundas Crescent Court. One, to have two Eastern European men wearing polo shirts who don't appear to be working for the city, sitting on their lawn like they're scoping out the house for a burglary or something.
Mhm.
And that's odd. And then a week later, to have a person that you know and care about be murdered in her garage. Well, that couldn't be stranger than that. And to have a church directly across the street, I find that disturbing. And that there were no services on that particular day that we can recall. No services, meaning no witnesses. And that the immediate next door neighbor, who's right next to the swimming pool, who would be in a position to see if there were any men on the property, they're gone for the summer to the lakes for vacation, summer vacation. So it's really a perfect time on this cul-de-sac to commit a murder, because the only thing that can mess it up is the family dog, which Peter took with him to the mall. And the other thing is a 13-year-old babysitter showing back up on this property after already having been here in the afternoon, coming back. Those are the only two things that could interrupt the murder of Christine Ferrari Demeter.
Mhm.
And both of those were taken care of very professionally. They were taken care of at the last moment, but they were taken care of. And if they weren't, then, it's you who are responsible for this show, because I wouldn't have known about this Canadian murder. I had heard about the Barry and Honey Sherman murder, double murder, which the media called it a suicide, which I never believed that. And I knew about that. And then I didn't know about all the other murders in and around the Toronto city and suburbs. I didn't know. And then this one, of course, jumped out because it's the O.J. Simpson case of Canada. It's the one that got all this news media. It built careers for the lawyers. It built careers for the media journalists. And it was a whole parade, like it was casted from Hollywood, with these Hungarian mafioso clowns that told outrageous stories, which, look, I love a story just like anyone else, but am I going to believe that Christina, I've never met Christina, but I mean, I listened to you tell me about her. And do I believe the mother of a 3.5-year-old child is going to go down and talk to a 30-year-old retired boxer whose name is Joe the Enforcer Donardi about breaking my husband's legs for 10 grand? When she has to beg and borrow for every penny to put gas in her car.
Yeah.
I don't believe she's going to go talk to a Hungarian boxer to beat up her husband. I don't believe that story. And if she did, if it's true that she really did, it's not going to happen, because he's going to call Peter and tell him, because he's a businessman in Toronto and can get him employment. He's not going to burn his bridges. Christina doesn't refer business to the boxer boy, and he's Hungarian, and she's Alsatian, or she's Venice German. He doesn't trust her. Not to mention that she's really beautiful and he's really ugly. I mean, he's really ugly. He's a beat up boxer. And that story is like, you might as well just throw in the space aliens did it. And that Christina consulted with some space aliens about killing her husband. That I might listen to. But I'm not buying the story that Christina tried to hire a Hungarian boxer to get her husband beat up or killed. That was very entertaining, but I'm not going to consider it that she did that. I don't think it happened in real life. I mean, in the Manson case, we have, a half dozen of those idiotic stories that, as an adult man looking at it, I laugh. I go, no one's going to do that. You got to be like a retard to do that. That's retarded. All right. Any final comments, Shirley? And then we'll go Jennifer, and then last comment to Rose, and then we're in the can. Go ahead, Shirley.
Well, I just wanted to thank you, Rose, for bringing this story and providing an insight to it that nobody really could see except for you, because anything you read, you don't get that personal viewpoint. So thank you for being so brave. This was awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer, what are your final thoughts tonight?
Well, to me, this is an open question. I suppose it's solved in that we've got Peters in jail, and the duck who probably did it, he's dead, I guess, and wherever. But to me, this is a mystery that still can be explored. I don't feel like it's all tidied up with a ribbon. I'm very curious about the neighborhood as a whole, about the people that were here. I think that the fact that those two guys that you saw sitting down, they bother you 50 years later, that tells me something. What I learned in fiction writing is they said, I was told, explore the mystery. Like a good novel ends with an open hand, not a closed fist, because you're still exploring the mystery of the human condition. And a cheap novel has everything all solved, like a little spaghetti Western. But the human condition is a mystery that you always want to explore. And so I think your story does both. Rose, I think you told an extraordinary crime story with your own personal experience, which is just harrowing. But there's still a lot that just begs for more exploration. It's a great story.
Okay, Rose, you get the final summary here to sum up your strange occurrences on Dundas Crescent Court, your childhood neighborhood.
So what's my final impression here? I feel, kind of strange, but I feel kind of privileged to have gone through this. It's given me a lot of insight on human nature and trusting people, facades, like how people appear. I mean, they look like a really great couple on the outside, even though Peter was not that handsome. But there's some pictures of, as he aged, he became really horrible. And I think that was a reflection of who he was inside. And I just feel it's been a very rich experience. And I know at the expense of someone's death. I've often thought about Andrea, and there were times when I thought maybe reach out. I really don't want to go there. I kind of want to leave that memory the way it was, and I just don't want to go there. But yeah, no, it's been a very rewarding experience from the human nature aspect. I always thought maybe Peter would repent. I'll use that word, repent, confess. But I think truly, through inside and out, he is an evil man. And that evil needs to be called out. And we need to call it what it is and stop, making all these, well, this and that, and she wasn't that. He was truly evil. And he confirmed that year after year with all his plots, even from jail. Can you imagine? I mean, this is not a free man. He has no idea what it is to live in liberty. and to really experience life. And he's a very sad character. And yeah, he belongs in jail, and that's all I can say. I think justice has been served.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Of course, I picked up the wrong. I'm going to let you know you're not the only person who thinks that, Rose. We do have the quotation of the last judge who sentenced Peter Demeter to life imprisonment, which is not his first rodeo. He'd done it before. So I'm trying to locate it here because I don't want to paraphrase. I just want to read verbatim what the judge said from the bench. Not that I particularly respect judges, because I don't, but I do not. But this quote from this Judge John O'Driscoll was noted in 1988. So this is after Peter had been paroled to a halfway house, and then he hired an arsonist to burn down the house at 1437 Dundas Crescent Court, which is 6 houses away from Rose's house. He could have burned down Rose's house. I mean, because if he gets that house going, it could burn the tenant's house and all the homes could go out. And this is after he tried to kidnap his nephew and demand a ransom from his cousin. And this is what the judge said. This man should never, ever, ever be released on parole. Okay. I agree. But I wouldn't let him use the mailroom either, because this guy has always got some like scheme going on, right? All right. Well, anyway, Rose, do want to say you're a rock star, and you're a very important member of the Star Chamber investigation. And that's what makes you an important member, are these personal experiences, because you're not some potted plant. You have actual hands-on experience, which none of the people who write books on the Manson trial or the Sharon Tate case or Victor Davis Hanson or Victor Ota, or wrote books on the Zodiac or the O.J. Simpson case or the Menendez case. None of those authors is as qualified as you are. You saw two people that were probably materially involved in the murder of your friend, Christina Ferrari Demeter. And you were at the home just 6 hours before she was brutally killed. So God bless you for bringing the story forward, because I probably wouldn't have noticed the story if it wasn't for you. So thank you, because I think everyone learned something here, because it could apply to anyone's neighborhood. I mean, if it can happen in this part of Ontario, Canada, in a beautiful suburb of Toronto, then it can most definitely happen. We know it happens in Beverly Hills. We know it happens in Holmby Hills. P. Diddy was raided. It happens in Bel Air. There's been murders in Bel Air, Malibu, Pacific Palisades, and Brentwood. There are multiple murders, from Marilyn Monroe to Rob Reiner to Nicole Brown Simpson. There are murders in Brentwood. So murders everywhere and anywhere. Thank you very much for your brave courage to share this story with the Star Chamber group and the audience tonight, Rose. All right.
Thank you.
See you guys in the lobby. I brought in some beluga caviar and some Dom Perignon champagne.
Good.
Okay, so we'll see you there. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Okay.